this is Paulina. I'm going to walk you through GTM in order for make a custom parameters so you can know how to configure it, how to name it, how to get the right information for your parameters, and how to make the trigger so you can get all your data into GA4. So first we need to open our Google Tag Manager and check that the account we're in it's the same as the one we need to make the changes. Here you can check it, and here this one is going to be the ID of the container you're working on in case you need to make any documentation or track in what are you doing and in what container. So one of the best practices for doing this kind of configurations or changes is to make a new workspace. So currently we're in the default workspace, but in case anybody else is working on making any kind of tests, your work won't be affected if you work in another workspace or their work. So here we can click on this, and here is going to appear a list of different workspace, and in case you have already one you can click on it, or in this case we're going to create a new one. So we need to get in this plus sign and name our workspace. So right now I'm just going to put config just for the configuration we're doing, and you can add a little description of what this workspace is about. So I'm just going to put the configuration of a page view, and then you can have it, you save it, and now we're in our new workspace that is config, and we can start doing our changes. Our next step is to make our new tag. So for that we need to get into tags, and here is going to appear all the tags that are in our container. So now we need to create a new one, so we click in new, and you have the tag configuration, the triggering, and how it's going to be named. So for here, this name is going to be different from the event tag, so you can just name it here. It's going to be for only GTM purpose, so you can name it like GA4 in order to know what you're talking about. And it's about enhanced e-commerce. You can add an double E to know what you're talking about. In this case, we're only making a page view, so we're just going to name it like that, page view GTM. Okay, so now we go to the tag configuration, and here we need to select what we're doing. So right now it's an event, so we're going to click on analytics event, and here in the configuration tag is going to be displayed a list of different configurations. So I'm going to choose GA4 config. That is the one that is linked to our Google Analytics, so that's what I'm choosing. So this is the event name. So one recommendation here is to always be in lowercase and separated by an underscore, so you can see what you're talking about. You get the right data from it. So I'm just going to name it page view category, since I want to view the interactions of my users in my website in the menu I have, like different categories and different menus. The next part of our configuration is the event parameters. So this is going to be the information our event is going to give us and what we need from it. So right now, as we're tracking the interactions our users are having in our menu, then I'm going to add a row that it's called category for the first interaction. Let's say we have a brand about clothes. So the first category is going to be women, and the second category is a subcategory, and it's clothes. And the subcategory, the subcategory is going to be jeans. So I can track all the different options that a menu has and what our users are choosing. So for the information that is going to be tracking, here one of the best practices to do this is to configure our tag based on our data layer that is already implemented. So I'm going to use that option, and for that we need to go to this bottom, that is the plus sign. Here, if you already have a different parameter information that is based on the data layer, you can choose it. But if it's a new one, that's our case, then we go to the plus button sign and click on it. And here we're going to make the parameter configuration about what we want. Just as the case before, we need to name it, and it's recommended to write a name that gives us information about what it's doing. So I'm just going to name it DL based on the data layer and what it's doing. So here is the category I want to visualize in my information. So here is the configuration of our parameter, and here you can choose a variable type. So you have HTTP refer, URL, first party cookie, and here is the one we want right now, data layer variable, since we're going to take it exactly as it is. So here in data layer variable name, as your data layer is already implemented and you're doing it based on that, you need to take the exact name that is written on it. So right now, my data layer, I know that it says category. So I'm going to write it exactly so we can have the right information tracking it. The data version is the latest, so that's why it's version 2. And just click save to have our new parameter. And here we can have it. So we're going to have this information whenever the event occurs. We're going to have that information tracked. So we need to do the same for the other two parameters we are having. Our next step is to fire the trigger. Now we have set all our information of our event, and now we need the trigger. That's going to be when our event is going to be fired. So here we go to the configuration, and if you already have one that you're going to be able to use, like add to cart, that it occurs every time a user adds to cart an item, then you can choose it from here. But since ours is specific, then we click on the plus sign to the configuration. In the name as well as the other ones, we need to make sure that we understand what we're doing in this trigger so we are able to track it later. So for this, it's just going to be the page view stat, and that's how I'm going to know what is it about. So for here we choose a trigger type, and in this case we're going to use page view. This is going to be every time our users click on one of the options of our menu. But here you can see that we have many options for you to use for different triggers. In here we have different options about all page views, so it's going to be every time a new page is loaded, this event is going to trigger. But we don't want that, so that's why we're going to use some page views. So for some page view, we are displayed at different options about what we can do, and we have different lists here. So I know that every time a user chooses from my menu, my URL changes, and it's going to be different from a search or or a button click. So I'm going to search for it, like what can I do, what can I use for the URL. So here I have the option that says page URL, so I'm going to use that one. In here we can use different things, just like starts with, ends with, or even we can use regular expressions. Right now, I know that my URL contains certain types. So I know my URL needs a category, and then it's the product, and then it ends with another one like this. So every time a user chooses from my menu, my URL is going to have this one. So it's going to be trigger. So I just click on save, and I'm redirected to my page configuration. So now I can click on save it. We have done all the configuration from our event. So right now we have the page view, and one of the most important things to know that it's working correctly is to make the preview. So for that you need to go to your website, link to it, and make the debug version so you know it's triggering and you're having the right information, the one that you know. Once you have done it, then you can click on submit, and it's going to be alive, and it's going to be linked to Google Analytics, and you are going to be able to track all the information you want from it.